Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hadiza Ramadhani from PBE Class B 24. I want to read daily text meeting 14, teaching English to visually impaired students and analysis of teachers' problems. Introductions. In Indonesia, English is intended to be one of the compulsory subject in junior high school, senior high school, and universities. It is widely noted that English is important for the most common reason that English is a global or international language. By mastering English, the student might improve their communication skill, widen their opportunities to study from various schools, and pursue their future student and careers. Stat that in teaching English as foreign language or EVL teachers as the facilitator of student learning take a variety of roles within the classroom as cities Marjolina, Lina Hollandia Harten et al. Teaching English as a foreign language is a challenging task for teachers, especially the visually impaired student. Teacher is a essential course state that teachers of students with visual impairment are qualified as specialist teachers who have the skills and practical experience in the field of visual impairments. Their specialist skill and experience establish them as the best qualified individuals to address the unique learning needs to visual impaired students. Additionally, state that students who are visually impaired must be provided with improvised instruction instructions in a variety of subjects, including language, art, sciences, and mathematics. To educate them in the subject effectively, they must be taught the necessary skill to enable them to learn to read and use appropriate technology to access and obtain information. Survey professors students report the teacher problem in teaching English to visually impaired students. Version 2020 and 12 focus on strength and problem as well as the technical and material used by their EFL teacher working in two special primary school for the visually impaired student and families, curriculum, verbalism, scarcity of courses, and the use of teaching technique did his research at Al Noor School in Egypt, the finding discounted the need for allocating extra time for listening and speaking activities and practice inside and outside the classroom to deal with the problem in teaching English to visually impaired students. Audio material or braille books and supplementary aids in additions to learning environment which includes the classroom settings, sound isolations aids and equipment for listening like speaker or microphones were required for successful English teaching and learning. Referring to the student above, it can be inferred that being visually impaired does not necessarily mean being unsuccessful language learner, although human persons serve a major stimulus for learning with the assistance of teacher and technology. Visually impaired students actually have potential for learning foreign language. Teaching English in a manner that meets the special learning needs of visual impaired. The student might be challenging for the teacher. This phenomenon, phenomenon encourages us to conduct Similar research at one special school in Palembang. Our preliminary student was carried out through informal interview with two of the English teacher who taught visually impaired student at one special school in Palembang, Indonesia. They inferred that their visually impaired students were unable to see objects clearly. The students have different to their visually impaired students were unable to see objects clearly. The students have difficulty to their visually impaired students were unable to see objects clearly. The students have difficulty to maximize the functions of their eyes to have even hardly can use their eyes at all. It differs from the student with normal conditions of eye that learning English by what they see around them, such as color, shapes, image, facial expression, and books illustrations. Consequently, tackling English to a visually impaired student needs expertise, enthusiasm, and seriousness to the teacher and result of the preliminary student indicate that the teacher in the special school faced several problems in teaching English to visually impaired students. To this easily become that the main corner of this research. Teaching English is meant to special learning needs to visual impaired student might be challenging for the teacher and phenomenon encourages us to conduct the research of the special school in Palembang. This research is instead to analyze the teacher problem in teaching English to visually impaired students based on teacher perspective and experience. The drug review. A visually impaired student. Visually impaired is a disorder characterized by poor visual functions that cannot be repaired by refractive corrections or glasses or contact lens. Medical products or surgery, the nature, degree of visual impairment might vary significantly to each student, might require individual adaptations to introductional practice in material in order to learn activity. According to Burr and Lauder, to 2002, visual impairment is a referred to functions of the eye and be measured with tests such as visual acuity, visual field, coloration, and contact sensitivity. In addition, visual impairment manifests itself in a variety of ways, including photophobia, diplopia, contact sensitivity, or impaired visual acuity, loss of vision, visual preventions, issues, visual recursion, or some combinations of the aforementioned one of visual impairment and the same. The word visual impaired also may be used described as consequence of the eye conditions and disorder. In conclusion, visual impairment is a condition where person vision of the same as regular or vision a regular person in general. In general. The visually impaired should be educated at the same general way as the sighted, following the same general participle, but teacher must have some teaching strategy for them. Students with low visions of those who are legally blind may need help to using residual visions more effectively and in working with special eye materials. Discussion, we found that there was several problems faced by teachers in English to visually impaired students to one special school in Palembang. This A. Time management problem. B. Students' attitude and behavior problem. C. Lack of instructional material for students with visual impairment. And D. Poor classroom conditions. The findings show that most the teacher had encountered the time management problem due to their limit teaching for Pike, 204 report that the time allocation has been a very crucial part in the English learning process. Time management as an important tool in teaching, especially teaching English as a foreign language for visual impaired students. In addition, or Pike 2004 described that time allotment must be allocated and keep balance with the time and exercise and that needed to each lesson. Teacher had problems to deal with student attitude and behavior general at all. 19 and 1885 in their student state that attitude in an evaluative reaction to some reference or else behavior or object. Mukmin and Habibi and et al. According at Ruther Glitter and Hagel in 90 and 98 had attitude to behavior might be expression or dissatisfactions and frustrations. MC Cord, medium, and and energy and interfere with the learning process if the descriptive and non-descriptive student, which may lead to uh, class-wide recorded entertainment and achievement. Moral of classroom behavior problem may be dependent. Clear expressions in the description that the learner default into the frame problem may research clarifications of descriptiveness that may later default into delinquent behavior research is why proven and be one of the problem and the teacher as during teacher and visually impaired student. Lack of instructional material also posed problem for the teacher and teaching. They had a very limited teacher material for visually impaired students such as alerts, print books, and textbook, audio software, and hardware for teaching English according to Al-Hassami and Al-Ghazali. Using environment in the state of evaluating the textbook in the one of different way, the use of involvement help in investigating the suitability of the textbook for the student level and help the exploring student ability to use the learning materials as it is Lithuanian 20 and 21. The teacher had to spend more time, energy, and money prepare and print out their own material. They had to print out their material in large size under one ox and Souther's 202 experienced the importance of instructional material including audio, visual material, and a language teaching program as the primary means so that which students gain access to the knowledge and skills specified in the learning objective. Additionally, UNESCO 2016 has proposed that use textbook and to improve learning outcomes in a shortages of instructional time. Therefore, well-designed textbook in sufficient quantity for the student with visual impairment are needed to improve quality of English teaching and learning process. Poor classroom conditions had also become the obstacles that made have teacher experience problem to deal with. Un- Uncomfortable classroom temperature to headache. Itsufi can our ventilator described the teacher in teaching according to fees. 20 and 70 pencils were often used with classes and have the more high humidity level and more function that the ventilation was the gap in the rib and bring out the air inside inside the classroom when ventilation were not enough. The CO2 that has been built up the class with kills humanity inside the class in the trap inside according to Robert Wolf, Dojim, Gering, and Wickerford 20 and 30 classroom ventilation often to the meet building standard although was considered to be important to improve indoor air quality, some literature achievement they concluded that there is subjective advice for an associations between ventilation rate and the student learning attention and academic performance. It can be said that there is a linear relationship between poorer classroom conditions and lower academic achievement, and vice versa. For conclusions, based on the result of the study, there were several problems and that the English teacher had a conductorate in teaching English to visually impaired students. The main problem were associated with the time management, student attitude and behavior, like instructional material and equipment and poor classroom conditions. The problem need to be overcome that the app at least minimize to give optional learning speech and opportunity to the student with visual impairment to learn English with study make over basic informations of problem experience to be teacher in teaching English to student with visual impairments. Further studies might be direct to investigate other problems and also the strategies to facilitate visual impairment student in English teaching is English in learning English. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.